welcome to another episode of Hollywood Knitter. My name is Allison. I'll be your host, and I'm recording on Wednesday, April 20th, 2016 from my home in Los Angeles, California. How is everybody? I have had a busy 2 weeks since I last talked to you. Lots and lots of knitting. Lots of knitting and knitting talks and retreats and all sorts of fun. It's been awesome. So let's get right into it with the knitting and start off with FOs. I have an FO. These are my toe-up socks. I use Judy's Magic Cast On, Fish Lips Conceal, do toe-up. These are just a kind of a vanilla sock. These are intended for a gift. So they're roughly based on my feet. The recipient is roughly the same feet as me. And the yarn is Western Sky Knits in a beach colorway, which was a special colorway I got at the Virginia Beach Getaway last year. It was the Retreat colorway. So these took me about a month to do. I had finished the first one before I went on my knitting retreat, and then I pretty much finished the entire sock there. I had a lot of knitting time, and of course, you know, vanilla knitting is wonderful. So, very pleased with them. First Christmas gift done. Let's see if I can keep her butt down. First knitting gift done to add to the box, and I'm really excited and pleased. And in the meantime, they're on my sock blockers. And I don't know about you, but my latest socks actually hang on my wall. So these sock blockers hang on my wall in my dining room, and every time I finish a new pair, they go on my sock blockers so that there's always a piece of knitting art on the wall. And then I know what my last socks I did too. So these now have the place of honor, and I have another socks that were on here. They finally go into my knitting box. And a little side note on my knitting box, I'll have to show you. I got some IKEA, they're almost like Christmas ornament boxes or scarves or something. But anyways, each box holds 12 in a slot. And I decided that for me, I'm going to only knit I have 2 boxes. So I'm only going to keep myself at 24 pairs of socks. And so right now, all my socks are cleaned, all of them are whatever. So I have 3 slots. So I can only knit 3 pairs of socks before they're full. And then after that, I'm kind of going to just do a knitting and replace. So as one wears out or gets too small or whatever, yank it and then knit another one. So I'm excited about that. So I have one more FO that since I last talked to you, I almost forgot it. I finished my crazy Magic Cake ruffle shawl. Well, it wasn't a ruffle shawl. I used the Magic Cake, which is based on the Magic Cake from Paula of Knitting Pipeline, and I had made this cake from scraps 2 years ago. And, you know, a few months ago, or when I was casting off for a project, I was looking for a simple project. I decided I wanted to do one like the one I had because I love it. This one is different. This one is much smaller. Apparently I had, hey, don't claw. Don't claw. I had one ball smaller than the other. I also had to rip one of the yarns that I had in there. It just kept breaking. It must have had some serious breakage at some point, and so it was just such a pain because, you know, the thing is there's no ends, and I kept having to like rip out thin spots and whatever. So I finally, after doing that a few times, just removed that whole color from the ball. So here's what I did. I did double increases. Well, I basically didn't want a super triangular shawl. So you can see it's kind of a shallow crescent. So I did increase every row on the edges or every other row on the edges, and then every row on the edges and every other row in the middle. And I did a 5-stitch kind of center around my increases to kind of give like a center panel, and I did a slip stitch. So that's why I have some nice lines down there. And then on the edge, as I got close, I just did a feather and fan stitch for the last color to kind of give it a more lacy edge. And I ended up with, based on my wingspan, about a 60 inch. I think that's what I measured it, between 56 and 60, depending on, I'm stretching it. And I'm really pleased with it. It has a lot of colors that I like to wear. It's not as big as the last one, but it's still a good neck kind of length. And so it turned out long enough that I can wear it. It wasn't super shawlette size, but it's not too big, and I like the colors. I know when I was putting together the ball, I was really careful that my colors went one into the next, and so you can see my light purple that I started with, then the next color, which is a cotton, has some of that purple. There was color in between that I ripped out, but even between the dark into the next one, it has the orange, and then so on. This is some, I think, hand spun, and then I go into blues. This is Desert Vista Dye Works, and so it actually was a striping, I think, and so I have like one side has like the solid yellow, and then others have the like the blue, and then into the purple and that, and into the green. So happy, turned out well, easy. It wasn't an official pattern. I sort of just made it up or cobbled it together to get what I wanted, but I'm pleased. And then my bind off, I did the Icelandic bind off. I really like that for these edges of shawls where they need to be stretchy, but you don't want them to be wavy or super stretchy. I've used it on something else recently, and I like it. So if you're looking for something a little different, try the Icelandic bind off. You can look it on. I find it online from someone. So 2 FOs this week. Hey, it makes me really excited. And I'm gonna wear it even though it's 85 degrees out, but I have my air conditioning on. So that is what I have finished. Now, let's start with the sock I cast on actually like yesterday, because I think it's so beautiful. Isn't this gorgeous? This is the next pair of socks for my boyfriend, and I picked out some Kirby Werby that I had in my stash, and this is the Lark colorway. You can see it's self-striping. Doing it toe up, I'm using my friend Emily's kind of slip stitch pattern, sock pattern, whose name is escaping me right now, but very easy. She calls it more of a recipe. It's available online. And yeah, that's it. Just a sock, and I've just been happy knitting it. I like that the stripes are roughly a little less than ½ an inch, and so I just kind of be like, just finish one more color. So I'm hoping to finish these kind of fast because I have another sock, a pair of socks that I want to cast on soon for him that I'll show you the yarn for that I bought. The other thing I was knitting on that I brought is a cast on for Citron. Now, Citron is a knitty pattern. It's been around forever. It's free. I knit one 2 years ago that I loved and I lost in Vegas, and it's probably my saddest knit that I've ever lost. So I decided I was gonna make a replacement. This one isn't exactly that because this yarn is Malabrigo lace that I had in my stash, and so it's a single ply versus the one I had was like a wool silk. So it's not quite the same kind of drapiness. It's really soft and it's really warm though. And I really like how it's handing out. I have 2 skeins of this, and this is the Polar Morn Malabrigo lace. So I'm hoping to make it as big as my last one, which had 8 of these repeats. And if you've never seen it, which you totally should, it's really easy. It's all stockinette, and it has a roost section, which is basically a section where you increase to a ton, like twice as many stitches, knit for a few rows, and then decrease back down, and then do a stockinette, all the while kind of increasing it to make it bigger. So it's pretty easy. You do sort of have to pay attention to what row you're on so you know when to do the increases and when to do the ruching and you know that kind of thing. But as the rows get longer, that time will be more knitting. So I thought it'd make some good, like I have some plain travel coming up soon, and it would be one that requires a little thought but not that much. And I have this in my, gosh, who is this bag by? I can't remember who this bag is by. It's a rainbow, has rainbows in it. Love it. The last thing I've been spending a lot of time on, I'm going to show you this week, and I even brought it with me up to my knitting retreat, is my linen stitch sock yarn scrap blanket. And I really wish I could come up with a shorter name for it. But I am almost at 12 inches, which is where I should be at the end of my 4th month in April. And it is beautiful and wonderful, and I'm using yarns. And in case you're new to the party, I basically, all of these ends are going to be fringe. I'm knotting them at the end with 2, and I do 1 row across of linen stitch, and then I push it all back, and I do another row across with the linen stitch to come up with this. And I'm cutting the ends, so I'm creating fringe, and I did fringe, so you can see you can see where I cut it, and I basically have a ruler that my mom gave me from sewing, and I just kind of put the flat, and it's a 3.5-inch wide ruler, and I just cut along the edge of it. So that worked out pretty well. It looks a little wavy, and then where I've got new ones, I'm just sort of leaving it long, and I'll come back and cut it. So I'm really pleased with it. I have a ton of new scraps that I got at the knitting retreat to add to it, so that's exciting. In addition to all my other ones, it's actually almost getting too big for my bag. I might have to start putting the actual blanket part of it in a basket and then just using these for my sock scraps. But very excited. Love how it's going. It's slow. I'm crazy, but I'm loving it. I'm still into it 4 months in, which is good because I've got a lot more inches to go. This only gives me a foot of width or height, and then I'm gonna have roughly 60 inches or 5 feet in length. Should be good. So that's all I have on my needles right now, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the retreat I went to and some yarn acquisitions. Let's start with the yarn acquisition real quick before I go into the knitting retreat recap. So I fell down into a rabbit hole of Instagram because I'm sure a lot of you guys follow a lot of dyers, and I'm usually able to resist all the prettiness, but when this came up, I didn't resist very hard. And so I picked up Mustache Yarns, who is Stacy, and this is her limited edition. It was a special order that she had these special orders open, and it's called Part 1 Droids, and this is the C3PO, and she did the R2-D2 one too. And it's really fun. She did a little sample mixed up, and she did so many different dye methods. It's uneven stripes. It is a self-striping. I think it's 15 stripes, something like that. 15 uneven stripes, where she said she had a lot of fun, and she used different, some of them are speckled, some of them are solid, some of them are, I don't even pretend to know how many different kind of dye methods she did. But she's having a knit along starting on May 4th. May the 4th be with you. So, and my boyfriend is a big Star Wars fan. So I picked these up. I like them. I'm going to knit him a pair of socks with them. And I think he'll really get a kick out of the inspiration and me knitting them for him. And yeah, so I'm excited. So I fell down that rabbit hole. I didn't get both. I thought about it. I just got the one. Trying not to go crazy overboard. So that was a stash acquisition. And then my other stash acquisitions are really related to the retreat. So this past weekend, I went to the Northern California Knitting Retreat in San Juan Bautista, and it is a lovely retreat put together by a few knitters up in the Northern California area, spearheaded by some well-known podcasters, the Two Knitlet Chicks, Barb and Tracy, as well as the Yarniacs, Gail and Charlene. So this happened to coincide, well, I went last year. This was the second annual one, and they have it at a Franciscan retreat center up in San Juan Bautista, which is about 5-hour drive for me. It's up in Northern California. And I was always planning on going because I have a lot of Northern California knitting friends that go to this retreat, and it's not very far from me. And it's a lot of fun, especially last year. Like, it's a beautiful location. And happened to coincide with a visit from my friend Martha, NoCKrs, who herself hosts a knitting retreat, the Virginia Beach Knitting Retreat. Her husband was going to be out here for a planned conference, and she was planning on coming with them, and she had texted me about the weekend or the time, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to be at the Northern California Knitting Retreat. So she was able to actually come to LA a few days before her husband, go to the retreat with me, and then come back and be with her husband for the retreat. So she was awesome. We drove together and did the whole thing. I actually picked her up on Thursday night from the airport. We stayed at my house, and then had breakfast in the morning, and went to Trader Joe's because that's what you have to do to get supplies with Trader Joe's. And then we hit the road and drove 5 hours up there. Went to the very, very scenic 5 freeway through California, which is basically through farmland, and it's not super scenic. I'm being a little facetious. Lots of trees, citrus trees, farm fields, a few of the big cow farms, which are always sad. But you are able to drive very quickly because it's pretty much just a point A to B, and there's not a lot of towns and things out there, so you're able to go very fast. We did have some crazy winds. Probably had gusts like 50, 60 miles an hour, so that was kind of fun to drive in, cut down on my gas mileage. But we were able to make it up there, and we actually got up there a little after 2. and pulled to the grounds, and we were one of the first ones there. We actually beat some of the retreat people there. So we said hi to those who were there and then kind of took a walk around because I didn't want to interrupt anybody setting up. And they had plenty of help and didn't need our help, but they did give us our room, and we were able to check into our room. We roomed together, and the way this retreat center, it's set away from everything. It's like a mile down this road. It's all in green hills and surrounded by farm fields, and it has great little kind of ridge behind it, like hiking trails, and so beautiful. And the weather was amazing. It was really warm, actually. We had many layers dressed throughout the day. So I started in the morning, it was like, 50 degrees, and so it was cold. As soon as the sun came out, like I had to switch into shorts and a t-shirt, but if you sat in the shade, you were too cold, and if you were in the sun, you got too hot, so you're kind of having to go back and forth. But the way this retreat goes is it is the most laid back retreat. You go, you do knit, you eat, you knit, you be merry with people. And there's no classes, there's no formal, there's a few activities, but not too many. And people go hiking, or they go running, or they just chill, or take a nap, or drink a glass of wine, or in my case, have a glass of beer, and just commune with other knitters, see everyone's beautiful projects, see what they're knitting on, weaving, spinning, they had it all. So one of the most awesome things I want to say, and I want to give a special shout out, because I go to a lot of knitting retreats, and so I have a few knitting bags for knitting retreats, and I love this knitting bag. They got a canvas knitting bag with the Northern California logo, and it's like the perfect size, it's the perfect weight, and I love that it's canvas. A lot of the knitting bags I get at other retreats are either plastic with the logo or something, and they tend to be not ones I keep, and I'm not a sentimental person, so I tend to put those aside, and that's what my Goodwill goes in. Like, I fill the bag slowly over time for Goodwill and then bring it all. But this one I'll be keeping. The other thing that I thought was a genius idea, and I guess saved them a lot of time, is instead of pre-stuffing the bags, they just had baskets with all the stuff that they were going to put in so you could grab things. So for example, they didn't have like a skein of yarn you got, like the bag was the nice thing you got. Oh, and my cup, which I don't have here. But the two big things you got was a drinking glass, and it was a really cool tumbler with like a wine cup within the tumbler, and I'm sorry I don't have the show, but it's somewhere. And that was that, and then the knitting bag, and then all the other little things that you could pick up yourself. So you got, like, the codes on a sheet, you got all of the wonderful people who donated. Miss Bab sent a bunch of about a little sample skeins, so I made sure to pick up one that was fingering so I can throw this into my blanket, which I will do after this, but there were other kind of weights. And then we also got some bead samples from Gilding Lilies, and so you were able to pick out the colored beads because there were a few colors, and I went with some lime green ones that I'm not sure what I'll use, but I liked them, and they weren't a color I had. They gave us some little stitch markers, and I love these little bags for things too. Patterns, and then a Buffy and the design thing. But you were able to pick up things as you wanted or didn't want and choose a little bit, and I really appreciated that. So that was a little knitting bag, and I used it all weekend, which is good because I don't have this kind of good size bag for a knitting retreat. So this was perfect because I usually just carry around my project bags, and this way I was able to carry around 2 project bags instead of running back and forth to the room. Now, Friday you get in, you have dinner, you knit. I freely admit, I think I'm turning a little not elderly, that doesn't sound right. I'm getting older. I used to be at knitting retreats like the last one up. I would be up till 2 in the morning, hardcore, etc. On the flip end of that, I never made breakfast. I always slept through breakfast, always slept in. And now I've kind of changed, and I know it's work. It's because of my schedule. I'm sleepy at 10 o'clock. And so rather than force myself to stay up, I was in bed by 10-ish every night. But then I was up at 6 and able to have coffee with the early morning knitters, so I guess I'm becoming one of those instead. But did that, so we had a wonderful dinner on Friday. Saturday, got up. We got up early, went to breakfast, and then we sat around and knit all day. I knit on my blanket, I knit on my socks. I went for a walk / little hike, it was like a mile, with Martha for a little while. We had some beers, we had lunch. You did more chilling. we did the other event that I did participate in. Now, they have a wonderful charity that they make knitted knockers for. And if you haven't heard of this, it's a wonderful, wonderful charity. I did not knit any knockers this year because I didn't want to buy the yarn. I didn't want to bring any more yarn in. So if I couldn't use it for my stash, I didn't do it. I'm a bad person. But it's this really great idea where people who've had breast cancer and had to have breasts removed have a knitted knocker as a prosthetic because their skin is very sensitive, yet you still want to look even. And it's something that they found that is a cotton knocker in the shape, and it kind of gives the shape of a breast, and they stuff it to the size, and it really works. And so a lot of women out there are really loving it, and there's this whole charity donating around it. And because of the acronym NoCKrs, that was the charity that last year they donated, and so it's really awesome. Knitted knockers. Check it out if you're looking for a new charity to knit for. They're so fast. Just have to be cotton yarns, and there's a website that has all the information. So that was one of the big things that people were bringing knockers, and then they gave out some gifts associated with that. Now, I got a door prize. I won Elizabeth Doherty's Setting and Sleeves books, which was awesome. And Elizabeth was there, so I got to meet her too. So that was amazing. I don't know where I put the book. I probably put it on my bookshelf already. And that was my door prize. So that was awesome. Everybody got awesome door prizes. Lots of great people donated. Then the only other skein that I came home with is we participated in a sock yarn swap. And so you basically took a skein of sock yarn that maybe you didn't love as much as you wanted to, a nice sock, and put it in a brown paper bag. And then everyone's name was drawn, and you picked another brown paper bag and got someone else's. And then if you didn't like that, you could swap. But I liked the one I got. So I gave an Into the World skein, and I got back Madeline Tosh and Dandelion, which is a merino wool linen fingering weight, 325 yards. And I love these colors, these pinks and these grays, and it's a little fuzzy, I'm assuming because of the linen, so it's kind of got a weird fuzziness. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. It won't be socks because it's only 325 yards, and it is super wash. So I might be able to do like a shorty pair, maybe. So I was happy. So basically I had a skein I might not love as much and got one I love more. And the only other gift, and this was a gift from Martha, I guess, for, I don't know. She didn't have to get me a gift, but she got me a gift. And as part of her retreat, they had kits drawn up with the San Juan Batista shawl, which is by Elizabeth Bree Musselman. And then she had her local knit shop, and I can't remember the name of it, dye up some yarn specifically. And these are all natural dyes. And so she gave me the 2 yarns and the pattern as a kit. And it's a wonderful striped shawl, and I'm really excited to do it. And the yarn is soft and it's great, and I love these really kind of corally and beige color. I think it will be awesome. So thank you, Martha. I appreciate that. I also appreciate that I drove all the way up, so she drove all the way back, and I got so much knitting done on my sock, which is how I almost finished those beach socks. And what else? Special shout out to another podcaster I met there that I actually have been listening to, and that is Jill from No Dice from I'm blanking on her podcast. I'm a horrible person. She has an audio podcast with her co-host Michelle. Just another skein. I'm so bad. Anyways, I'll remember it next time. But hey, Jill, it was wonderful meeting you. I hope we get together soon. I'm petting my cat who missed me greatly while I was gone. And apparently not so much that I shouldn't be touching her because she almost bit me. She is a finicky woman, my cat. She's recovering well from having all her teeth taken out. She's still a little gummy when she tries to bite, which is kind of funny, but she's gotten used to it. And I think that's all the knitting I have to report, kind of things. I have some upcoming travels. I'm home this weekend, which will be nice. And it's actually a weekend my boyfriend is home too. He doesn't have his son. So we have some errands and just hanging out time because we're not going to see each other much for the next 3 weeks. He's going back down to Mexico, and I have some travel. So next weekend, I go on my girls' weekends with my college roommates to Austin, Texas. So I'll be there for 3 days, Friday through Sunday. Then I come back, and on that Thursday night, I fly out and do the red eye and go to Maryland Sheep and Wool and hang out with my friends who I'm so excited to see. And go to Maryland Sheep and Wool and be there Friday morning until Sunday, fly back. And then that next weekend, I may or may not go down to Yuma. It is my tradition to go take the train to my boyfriend's and then drive back up with him. But I'm still on the fence about it because I'll have been gone a lot. And I might just want a day at home, you know, to chill. That's what I miss. Like, I took Monday off after the retreat just to basically readjust myself, because after doing that much social, I'm more of an introvert. And so I was grumpy. Like, not that I was at the retreat, but I had so much social interaction that it was just like my body then, like, or my mood bounces the other way. And so I was kind of grumpy to my boyfriend. So I needed to get over that. And so a little alone time really helps me recharge. So I cleaned and did laundry and organized and did things, and it was awesome. So that's what I have coming up. I also have later in the summer, Zombie Apocalypse, very much looking forward to. I was talking to my new roommate, so I'm excited. And what else? I guess that's all for right now. And I hope that everyone is having a wonderful summer. It's already summer here. It's in the 80s. Special hey to anyone who's watching me who met me at NoCKrs. Some people who had listened to my podcast before hadn't realized I started a video podcast. I'm really bad about social media and telling people, just because this is kind of, I really look at this podcast, and just in case I haven't mentioned it, this is just me talking to my friends. This is talking to the people I met at the retreat. This is talking to my other friends, just telling them what's going on in my life. I'm not one to provide a lot of information. I don't look at this as a service. I look at this as a way to keep in touch with all of my knitting friends. The ones I've met, the ones I've yet to meet, the ones I will meet, because I want to go to all the knitting retreats. Not this year, but I totally see myself later on. Like, if I could actually retire, I think I'm just going to professionally go to knitting retreats. There was a lot that we talked about this weekend that I would love to go to. Paula's got her Georgia retreat, her Maine retreat. I heard of a cool one that's knitting and yoga in Maine, and there's just so many. I could just travel to retreat in addition to all the other travel I want to do. But I think that's enough rambling for now. I think you have heard enough from me, and so I will bid you adieu. And oh, quick thing, if you're looking for me, I'm Allison1031 on Ravelry and Instagram. And you can find the podcast on my website, YouTube, as well as have a Ravelry group, Hollywood Knitter, on Ravelry. And I'm always looking if you want to friend me on Ravelry or Instagram. Instagram, you just have to friend me. I'm locked because I had too many spam followers initially, but if I see knitter or you look normal, it's not like I screen. I just do that to prevent the spam bots, the Instagram bots, from adding me. So, good night, everybody. That's a wrap from Hollywood, where fantasy meets fiber and dreams are knit.